It is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday, discussing incredible classic beers. And this beer from Deschutes, the Fresh Squeezed IPA, has actually been recommended a couple times through Old Favorite Friday, just through our social media accounts. People talk about the beers that they think we should feature. Haven't had a chance to get to it yet. I'm rectifying that right now. Of course, we've covered Deschutes before. Their Black Butte Porter, one of my favorite porters out there. And this is a really lovely IPA. It was first released in 2009. And if you do a little bit of research like I did on this beer and you kind of remember when this beer came out or this style of beer started coming out, they were calling this a new world, or a new school, I should say, IPA. And the fact that it was using like Citra and Mosaic hops, were at that time were not being used as prevalent as they are now. I mean, those hops are just kind of everywhere. But when this beer first came out, it was a brewery exclusive beer, and they were experimenting with these hops and using them in large quantities, probably for the first time, and really getting some of those early kind of the first wave of juicy, fruity forward IPAs that were really concentrating on those kind of flavors, and but also still having a bitter hop background to it, a backbone, I should say, and also still having that really nice little crystal malt in there to give it the more deeper caramel, amber, orangey color. And it's interesting to think about these as being new school IPAs, because we've come so far. We now have just juice bombs, and we've gone so much in the opposite direction, where you see kind of the evolution of that style of beer with a beer like this by a brewery like Deschutes has been making great beer for a very, very long time. You know, I am for this. I am here for this beer because it does what I now see more breweries kind of shifting focus back, adding more balance into their hazy IPAs or juicy IPA. It's not that we're not still kind of out there. You got New Belgium in their Voodoo Ranger series doing the juiciest IPAs that you can possibly find. So it's not that everybody is changing, but you do see a shift of kind of more bitterness being added back into IPAs, a little more balance, maybe a little bit more maltiness being added back into these beers. And I hope we reach an equilibrium point where we have a good amount of those style to really balance out those super fruity, super juicy, hoppy IPAs, because as much as I like them from time to time, this is what I want to drink on a regular basis. And what are we tasting here? Big citrus fruit, grapefruit, orange. There's a little bit of malt sweetness here, but you still have pine resin, you still have herbaceousness, you still have that nice bitter backbone. It's not over the top like we would have seen in those classic West Coast style IPAs, but there is a balance of flavor here that is just really refreshing to drink. I mean, that's one of the best things I can say about it. That bitterness makes you go back for another glass. It stops it from being cloying in one note. I find a lot of times with these really big juice bombs, I taste it, I have the first sip, and then I'm kind of done with it. I don't need to have 12 ounces of it. I don't even need to have 8 ounces of the beer or 4. I have a sip. Wow, yeah, that really does taste like fruit juice. And then I'm kind of done. I want to go on to a different beer. That is not what this beer is. It's an incredibly well-balanced IPA made by a great brewery that knows how to do these flavors in the right way. And I love the fact that they're still brewing this beer and brewing it in this way. And they have been doing it through the environment of how we've had that big shift, which, as I mentioned earlier, I hope is kind of coming back around to the public waking up to see that these beers are still out there, still available, and still absolutely delicious. At 6.4%, easy drinking. And it's another one of those beers where as you let this beer warm up a little bit, you're going to get a little more of that orange marmalade or candied orange peel. It's going to have a little more of that fruit expression than when it's super ice cold. I always recommend don't drink your beer ice cold. That's just not the way beer was meant to be made, or meant to be drank, I should say. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that for your Miller Lite. You probably should. But for a good craft beer, it should not be ice cold. That's not where you're going to get your best expression of flavor. So talking about food and beer pairings with this, the classic food and beer pairing ideas for IPAs, everyone's seen them a million times. It's buffalo wings and things of that nature. But I think this beer, particularly because it has a little bit of malt sweetness to it, because it has those juicy, fruity hops to go with that bitter backbone, I'd like to see this like jerk chicken. I think it'll really accentuate the fruitiness and the spices that comes into that dish. I also think this beer could do pretty well with something kind of rich and citrus forward, like a scampi pasta, like a shrimp scampi pasta, because you have all that citrus and that lemon zest and that acidity. This beer doesn't have that, so you have the bitterness to balance that out. You have the fruity notes of the hops that will bring out the natural fruity flavors in the shrimp, and I think it could be a really nice combination together. This beer is fantastic. If you're lucky enough to have this available in your area, you really should go pick it up if you haven't in a while. Just in general, I say this about a lot of these breweries that we do on Old Favorite Friday because it's just correct. Anything they do is going to be a great beer. The NA version of this beer is fantastic. It's one of my favorite non-alcoholic IPAs. So you just can't go wrong with a Deschutes beer. You can't go wrong with Fresh Squeezed. And thank you guys for recommending this beer and putting it back on my radar to do it for Old Favorite Friday. I hope you guys will poke around on the channel, like and subscribe so you can see more of these videos talking about incredible classic beers that we absolutely love and want to give more love and attention to. And we hope to see you next week. Cheers.